Hey everybody, this is the Ghost Set Killer with Put 'em on the Glass podcast. Hey, this show, as well as most of the shows this month, is brought to you by the Autoglass University, theautoglassuniversity.org. Go there, register for a class. You'll get to meet my personal ass. You'll be like, hey, what up, motherfucker? Anyways, it's all good. Today is fucking Pump City. Like, I am juiced. As juiced as I was with Alfredo and Jorge, but just a little bit more because this guest is amazing. And today's guest is
Mac Curbow.
Mac Curbow. So, we have a history we're going to get into a little bit because we kind of virgins in 2019 together at Autoglass Week, but your style is very impressive to the point that it should be copied. And a lot of people are copying it. And it's great to see that. I want to know, where did the Autoglass journey start for Jen and Mac Curbow?
Well, it's actually kind of a long story on that one, but sure, I'll go into it. So, uh, we actually started with the Novus Glass franchise originally. Ironically enough, my mother was the CSR and my dad was an auto glass technician there at the time. And my dad was trying to convince me to come work for them for a good little while because he wanted to train me up so that he could go back to school to be a teacher. Anyways, long story short, I'd been working at a scrapyard at the time and was working on a baler and had a fuse panel blow up my face. Ended up having to be rushed to a hospital, flown in, all that fun stuff. Had third-degree burns all the way down my hands and
Oh,
whatnot. And anyway, so I ended up having to change careers after that, just because my lungs took a pretty big hit. So I've always been an asthmatic, but my lung capacity went from 75 down to like 40 something percent, like 45%, something like that. Jen will know for sure. Uh, so I had to go to a cleaner environment.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
How
it
old were you
happened to
when
be
that
like,
happened?
oh gosh, that was in 2011. So I
Okay.
was, oh gosh, I was almost 15 years ago. I was like 23, something like that, 24.
Wow. Wow.
It was the week after my daughter was born,
Oh,
my second
shit.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a whole thing. It's fun.
So then you got convinced by your dad and also convinced by fate that
Yeah.
you were to join the Novus franchise. Now, did your dad train you?
Yeah. So he did. And training at the time was, back then it was a lot like what a lot of guys I'm sure have trained on. So I started on a Monday, had to bring my own tools, and did my first install on my own on Thursday. Friday was there. Here's your van, and you've got 8 jobs.
Yeah, motherfucking preach, right? Right?
Yeah. So my mission since then has been to never do that to anyone ever again. And
Nice.
so so yeah, now I teach my dad stuff on the auto glass side because he's a teacher now and he doesn't do it anymore. Thank
Mhm.
goodness, because he's getting up there in age and he doesn't want anything to do with manual labor anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so the way that you go approach your job, I
Mhm,
understand you were thrown out with 8 jobs. You were in this van. You were doing, the way we all were trained. But the way you go at your job is so methodical and
mhm.
so like regimented. Where did that come from, Mac? Like, you didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and be like, you know what? I need to do this better.
No, well, it came from how much. So for the first couple of years I did this, I was just shaking with my head cut off. Like I was just scrambling, couldn't get anything figured out. I did okay, but man, looking back at the installs I did back then, it's like painful, to know that
Yeah.
I was putting that kind of work. One of the struggles I've always had personally is I have ADHD,
Hmm.
so I have to be very careful of what I'm doing, and that comes out a lot when I'm working. So what happened is for the first couple of years, it was just pure chaos, right? Like no organization, my tools, no nothing. And as I started to learn more about stuff and kind of get a little more comfortable, a little comfortable in my skin, I started to realize, hey, if I keep my stuff organized, my day goes better. And then it kind of just snowballed from that. And what I learned over the years was, with me personally, as much regimen as I can create for myself with glass, the more
Hmm.
I can shut my brain off and I
Yeah.
can just rely on muscle memory. And that's what allows me to do it so fluidly without having to second guess or think or anything like that. Because every single job I approach the exact same way, and I've done that for so long. It's just second nature.
Okay, so if you're comfortable with it, I would like to touch and kind of do a little deep dive on that ADHD thing because I
Sure.
feel that in the trades, especially, we get this stigma of these are the kids that failed out of school. Okay. These are the
Right.
kids that can't fucking handle life. But what I've found is a lot of us guys are been diagnosed with this some sort of I've not been diagnosed, but I've had, someone who is medically knowledgeable tell me that he thinks I have ADHD. And
Right.
yeah. And he's someone really close to me and someone really personal, my son. And like so he's like, I think you know, but I think that a lot of us have that. And I do
Mhm.
think do you think that once they get regimented, and a lot of these guys can dig their way out of that, say they're in the disorganized van, Mac, and say they're
Mhm.
in this disorganized shop and everything's just everywhere, and they can't quiet their mind through the muscle memory. What is the tip you would give someone like that to take that step back to maybe come out of that a little bit to become the technician that they can?
Clean, clean and organized, man. That's the way to do it. Like I have, like for those of us that have ADHD, one of the benefits of it that doesn't get talked about a lot is that ability to hyper focus. Right.
Yes. Yep.
If you enjoy something, you get like sucked into it, and then that's it just overtakes you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's really easy to do if you put yourself into an environment that kind of cultivates that, right? So like for me what I found is that like if I'm living in chaos, right? If my house is dirty, if my van is dirty, all that chaos, it muddies your mind, right? Like you said, you got to quiet your mind, right? Well, you can't do that if you're working out of a dirty van. You can't do that if your shop is filthy and you don't know where stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that extra time to clean up after yourself and organize your stuff, I have a little bit of OCD in me, so I go a little extreme. I mean, you've seen my toolbox, right?
Oh
So,
God, yeah.
but when you have that order where you can control it, it allows your brain to focus on what's important instead of being distracted so easily. Because
Okay.
what I found is if I'm working on a car over here and then I see like parts for a car over there, I'm
Uh-huh.
not thinking about that car. Like I'm no longer thinking about what I need to think about.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. Now, that same technician, you're telling them to get clean and organized. And
Mhm.
sometimes with ADHD, we rush to get things done
Yep.
and we kind of maybe skim over some of the things we don't. So, would you suggest that person like either slow down or outside of work create a routine? Because I think the hardest thing is that you just feel like a failure when you can't get things organized.
Mhm.
So, what would your recommendation be as someone who has conquered this and became a very like you're you're up here on a professional level. You're kind of like above most of us when it comes to professions with the well, as far as you do the
Not,
job here.
not
So,
necessarily that saying that, but
but you see what I'm saying. You see why a lot of us look up to you. You can see that, right? You can see why a lot of us look up to you.
not necessarily, but okay.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you from a person who does, we look up to you. Now, as a person who has that struggle sometimes of the ADHD and someone who has, what would be your recommendation of getting clean and organized? Because just saying it is just
Mhm.
like throwing darts at a wall and hoping you hit bullseye.
Right. So for me, it's all about my like. So I have a pretty loose but rigorous schedule that I keep. So like I'm not by no means am I perfect with it, right? But like what helps me out a lot is I spend a lot of time where I get up early. So I actually start my day early. So you
Okay.
guys are on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast, right?
Yep.
My day for me started at 5 a.m.
Mm.
And that's just how I roll because
Mm-hmm.
my boss now is on the East Coast and it works out better for me that way anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been like that. So I wake up early before anybody else does. One of my favorite quotes is the best time to be selfish is early in the morning. So I
Perfect.
do all the selfish stuff before my kids are awake, before my wife's awake.
Mm-hmm.
And what I generally will do is I'll get up early and I'll read or I'll listen to an audiobook, sometimes both, because I need that. I need to, kind of reorientate my brain from where it's at. Usually I'll read anything from like the Bible in the morning if I really feel like that, or I'll read like leadership book, or I'll listen to an audiobook. Audiobooks seem to be really helpful for me personally because
Mm-hmm.
if I need to focus on what's in front of me, it's distracting my mind to have an audiobook going.
Mm.
So
Yep.
my thoughts don't ramble loose. They kind of follow a path, when you got an audiobook going in the back of your head. So I do that a lot. And that kind of helped me to kind of reorientate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, I'm all about getting up early, man. Like getting up early, reading a little bit, forcing myself to read was a big start, but now I love it. I read tons of books now and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
basically what I'm getting is like win the morning to set
yep,
yourself up for success later on in the day. I like
yep,
the reading thing to set your mind on a focus path first thing in the
mhm,
morning. I do like that because like I'll get into a hurry sometimes. I'll find myself hurrying and I'm like, "Okay, Jimmy, you got to stop." I mean,
yep,
really, I'll be like, "Okay,
yep,
Jimmy, you got to stop. Like things are starting to snowball on you. You got to take that step back. You've got to refocus yourself." So I rely on a lot of inner dialogue when
mhm,
I'm in that situation, kind of like what we're talking about where when things start to get scattered. It's like, okay,
yeah, yeah,
it's like, okay, man, you got to stop. You got to pick up your tools. You got to do X, Y, and Z. You see what I mean? Even though you have that goal to get this car done or get two cars done or whatever it might be, there is a time where I have to go, whoa. I like the idea of winning the morning. I do. I
mhm,
like the idea of the books. I really, because I have become a avid audiobook listener.
mhm,
I read a good bit too, but a lot of times what I'm reading is technical jargon, ADAS
yeah,
stuff,
yep,
auto glass stuff. But what I listen to is motivational stuff. Um,
mhm,
I listen to a lot of leadership things because I feel like a lot of people need to take responsibility for their actions of being leaders, and I think
mhm.
not enough of us do that.
Yeah,
Now,
anything you can listen to that makes you think
hmm
is what I lean to. I'm not going to listen to any books or read any books that are like storybooks
hmm
because those don't get my mind running. But if it's anything that sparks my thought process, so I listen to a lot of theology books and I listen to a lot of leadership books because that gets my inner dialogue going
hmm
in the right direction for the day. Because once you set that path, it's you're pretty much set for the day.
so basically, I like this. I like this because if you set that path in the morning, you
Mhm.
get started and you get that thought process going. You're not just drinking a cup of coffee and thinking about 90 million things. You get your thought process going with that book
Right.
or with that audiobook or with that podcast or with that whatever to get your
Mhm.
process of logic thinking going. You kind of keep it throughout the day. Because isn't
Yep.
it logical thinking is what helps us keep control of our actions while we're working?
Yeah.
I mean, because we're problem
Sure.
solvers. We have to be
Yeah.
problem solvers all day. So if you go at a problem like without logic, you're just kind of just out there in the wind, basically. You got to have a logical thought process to figure out a problem, where to start. And I do think a lot of technicians, especially the guys who are proud of the wiper salute, they're proud
Mhm.
of how fast they are. I really do think that because when you have the ADHD, I don't know if you fought with this, but I've never been diagnosed, so I don't know, but I have a lot of people around me who have it. You have this chip on your shoulder because you've been told you're not good enough,
Mhm.
because you don't fit this mold of you sit down and you get straight A's, or
Right.
you're moving around too much in that corner and your teacher can't focus on the other 30 kids. So as you grow up with ADHD, you're made to feel like you're not good enough. So you got that chip on your
Mhm.
shoulder. So when someone like a Mac Curbow comes to you and they're like, "Hey, buddy, like, there's a better way to do this to where everybody's safer." Well, fuck you, I can do it in 20 minutes. Wiper salute, not primer, and go. And they wear that as like a badge of honor. Whereas if they would just sit back and be like, "Look, what he's saying is making sense. We may not be so different. I just need to set my intentions for the day and calm my ADHD down."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's a lot of process, man. That's all it really is.
it is, and life does flow easier when you have a process and you have a routine. Um,
Mhm.
Back I used to deal with my inner dialogue a lot through movement. I don't so much
Mhm.
anymore. I put the weight on, but back in my day, I used to do it with movement a lot, and I loved Mother Steel, which is lifting weights.
Mhm.
Besides doing dirt bikes, I really loved lifting weights, and you can get that thought process to shut off and focus
Yeah.
on what you were doing. And I think if you can start the thought process in the right direction in the morning, it allows it to shut off later in the day when you're working on your car or you're getting your work done. Um, I feel that the one thing I struggle with, if let's say I do have it for whatever, but is shutting off work because
Oh,
I do enjoy it. It's hard to shut it off by thinking about it and everything. And do you feel that that can potentially rob some of your family time and your joy there? Have you found that at all?
oh, definitely, definitely. I had that same problem because when you have ADHD, you kind of have to lean into the hyper focus, right? You're gonna have some days where you just don't feel like you're getting anything done, And you're gonna have other days where you're just sucked in and you look up and you're like, where'd the day go? But you don't want to stop, because if you stop, you're gonna lose that momentum that you have built up. So that's almost like a drug in of itself, right? Trying to pull away from that is really difficult. Luckily, Jen is been with me for so long now. She knows how to pull me away from stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we work really well together. And since we work together,
Hmm.
it kind of helps bridge that gap. So, a lot of people say, don't talk about work with your spouse and all that kind of stuff. You work together, but we haven't had that problem. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
because we both work together, because we're both in very similar roles, we can kind of problem solve together,
Hmm.
which helps kind of get that out. So that way we can move on with the rest of our day and not have that kind of lingering thought process.
Hmm.
Right. Because that's one of the downsides about ADHD is that kind of obsessiveness that comes into play,
Hmm.
especially like, like you were saying, like when you grow up, and you're in school. I did horrible in school, right? They set me in the back of the class because I was so disruptive.
Hmm.
And when you have that constant negativity build up, right? What'll happen is, well, at least what happened to me is I would make a mistake in the morning. And I see this a lot in auto glass texts. You screw up something on a job, something stupid, something small, or something doesn't go right. And it sticks with you. It's almost like a gnawing at you. And you can't get rid of it. It goes into the next job. And then by the fourth or fifth job of the day, every job is suffered because you can't get over what happened in that first job. And your whole day falls apart. At least that's what happened to me lots.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that it's almost like that what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like you just don't trust yourself enough to get over it, so you kind of blame yourself every time something goes wrong, even if it's outside of your control, and it sort of snowballs as you get through that.
Now, when you find yourself blaming yourself, and this happens a lot to me when I don't know what I'm doing with something, I always expect
Mhm.
myself just to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if it's outside of auto glass, do you find that you get to the point where you're starting to, without realizing it, alienate yourself because you're snapping at everybody around you without really realizing it because you're so pissed off at
Mhm.
yourself?
Oh, 100%. I really struggled with that when I was doing this in my early days in my career,
Hmm.
especially when I became a manager of the location. So I still installed, but I was managing the shop at the same time. So I had that extra stress going on.
Hmm.
What I found for me was if I didn't have something outside of me kind of like keeping my temper,
Hmm.
then it could snowball really easily. And you could get like to where you snap at things. I got really started to really realize how much music was playing into my life at that
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
And I started, I basically had to fix my problem. Everybody's problem's a little different, right? But like,
Hmm.
the type of music you listen to, music's really powerful.
Very
And
powerful.
certain notes will make you feel a certain way or whatever. Like if I'm listening to Linkin Park, I
Yeah.
can get pretty depressed pretty easily, really quick, right?
Yeah.
So what I ended up finding myself doing is I got to the point where I basically just had a rule at my shop. I'm like, listen, we're going to listen to K-Love and that's it. Because if
Hmm.
we don't, I'm going to start snapping at everybody. Like I have to have something like positive going on in the background, no matter what's going on. And what I found was specifically with that station is that I could get my day would be going just as smoothly. I could be going just as fast because the music was upbeat enough that
Hmm.
I could roll through it. But it was positive. Like everything about it was positive, 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 and all that was coming into my sensory, right?
Hmm.
Because ADHD are really sensory. Everything like
Oh, very,
touch,
yeah.
feel,
Yeah.
everything is kind of like extra. So that kind of helped me a lot to start to slowly overcome some of that,
Hmm.
to where I can start to realize, hey, I kind of started getting to saying, like, even though I'm like I'm very perfectionist with what I do, but at the end of the day, I started having to tell myself, like, I'm changing a windshield, not the world. Like,
Yeah.
let's
No, no,
let's
100%.
let's take it for what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the changing of the music change your attitude because music, like you said, is very influential, and a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially in the situation of ADHD, they attach themselves to a genre or to a style of a goth or a rap or
Yep.
I'll listen to anything, and I find upbeatness in a lot of different things. But like, I agree with you. If you're having a shitty day, change the music and it'll change. Like
Oh, 100%.
and if you're not listening to music, maybe introduce music into but an upbeat music, and maybe even something that you're not, proud to listen to and make it that guilty pleasure. That you know what I mean? Like, so like, okay,
Is
for
this the part where
example,
you tell everybody that you listen to Celine Dion?
I listen
And
to Justin Timberlake. I listen to Celine Dion. I listen to like I got musicals on my rotation on my playlist. I have, dude, literally like people will walk through the shop and I'm listening to music. They're like, "What the fuck is this?" It's like I don't know, whatever's playing on my playlist, man. Like I got all kinds of stuff on there. But dude, yeah, Celine Dion's music can make you feel all like floaty. Like I just if I'm having a bad day, I'll change the station. I really
yeah,
will. And yeah, I mean, I have pleasures with music, but they're not guilty because I just enjoy music and I don't really care what style. Now, if I have to pick a genre to listen to, it's hip hop. I grew up on hip
really.
hop. I love hip hop. It's one of my favorite genres. I listen to it all the time and it's my go-to. And then second would be like a little bit more punk or hardcore rock. Not so much metal. I don't really care for metal, but
Mhm.
and then after that it's pop. Pop would be my third favorite. I love pop music,
Really?
like to listen to it in the background. Oh yeah, dude, the bye bye bye. Heck yeah, dude. Like that was huge. You know what I mean? Like I grew up on boy bands though, like the Bobby Brown days. Like yeah, I grew up on that shit. So like I love R&B music. Oh, dude, hit me with some freaking Tyrese and I'm set for the day, dude. Like set for the day. That is baby making music, baby, and I love it.
See, I'm at the age now where the music that I grew up listening to, people look at me funny when I listen to it. And that'd be like, like Blink
Me
182
too.
and Bowling for Soup and all those guys. You put some of that on, like, what are you listening
Listen
to?
to you old fogey, you boomer, like yeah, I feel you.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. So, but yeah, I agree. Like if you're having a bad day, you need to stop the snowball from keeping going downhill. And if it is changing your music or changing your perspective or stopping, because I find myself, I'm so super critical on myself, as you are
Hmm.
as well, from what I'm hearing, that once that mistake doesn't leave your mind, once you can't let it go, then you're mad at everybody who did nothing.
Right.
Like they did nothing to deserve this, but you're just like, because you're so mad at yourself that you don't know how to express it. And I do think that we're all hurting inside from something. And I think that
Hmm.
that's one thing with ADHD that you can hyper focus on and get mad. Instead of learning how to do something, you're stuck on the fact that you can't do it because you've been told your whole life that you can't.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
kind of one of the
that's
things.
it's definitely a common thing with ADHD people is we kind of grew up where we always were coming short on stuff, even if we were really good at other things. You know what I mean? Like the important stuff, at least what was perceived as important, like you
Yeah.
always kind of fell short. And then so you kind of always had that not good enough, like I'm not good. And that's taken me years to get past that. I still struggle with that.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
I
it's a
huge
driving
in high
factor. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead with
school.
high school.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I struggled with that a lot in high school. The not good enough thing. Like it came from every different angle that I was around. So I really had a hard time with that
Yeah,
for a
like
long
the self-esteem that it kind of crushes you,
time.
and then you're trying to prove yourself everything you do.
Yeah.
Everything
Well,
you
and it
do,
doesn't
you're
help
trying to
either.
prove
I was a
yourself.
big fat guy in high school either. So
Well, I didn't have that, so I didn't, I was your really, really skinny kid, and like I graduated, I was super skinny and like just a little guy. I really was. I was just a little guy, so I wanted to be bigger, but that whole not feeling like you measure up, even though you're really good at something, it
mhm.
It it really does. It takes a long time. Like I'm 45 years old now, and I'm just in the last few years getting to the point where I really like myself. And I can actually say that now. Like in the
Yeah.
past, I couldn't say that, but I actually do. Others may not like me, but I like me, and it's hard to get over that when you're one of those kids where you just never felt like you measured up, and it is a driving
Mhm.
factor. Like, bitch, I'll show you, see what I can do, like that is definitely um, one of those things that keep, reoccurring. But I think that, in our industry, because a lot of us have been told that we don't, our job doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Any monkey can install glass. I've been told that before. And it's not the truth. If you're out
No.
here, you're a skilled tradesman and you need to know that. You need to know that you're a skilled tradesman. What you do, you're not changing the world, but you are doing something that is important. And I think a lot of guys just don't feel that way. They're just like, dude, it's a punch in, punch out. It's just a job, and it is a
Mhm.
trade. It really is a trade. Um,
Well, and it's a pretty complex trade too. So I've done everything from plumbing to roofing to custom cabinetry making to carpentry to the whole nine yards. Right. I've done
mhm.
all of it at this point in my life, and What I can tell you is your average auto glass technician has to know more information and have more skills than any plumber, than any carpenter, than any electrician, like by far. Like the stuff that they not to belittle those trades at all,
No, 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 no,
but
no. Yeah.
the stuff that we have to know is a lot more complex, even than your auto body shops. So we get put down a lot by by the auto body shops. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, you say you can do it, but you're not doing it correctly, not even remotely correctly. You're
Yeah. No.
sacrificing some safety by
Yep.
your techniques you're using, and then you're going to act like, oh, this one car was easy, so I can just do it all. And even when we deal with some customers, right, who they had their classic windshield replaced 20 years ago and it looked easy, so it must all be easy, right?
Hmm.
And they don't really give us the credit that a lot of auto glass guys deserve. And it kind of seeps in, like you said, it seeps into the industry, and people treat it like it's a clock in and out thing. And that's actually one of my personal goals, is to change the way not only that our industry views itself, but the way that other people view our industry.
Hmm.
Because we do something that's very important to the auto glass and to the aftermarket automotive industry as
Yep.
a whole. And there's so many guys out there that have so much knowledge, so much talent, and it's being robbed from them because they don't feel like it's anything special. I mean, how many guys do you know who are good auto glass technicians who are embarrassed to say what they do for a living?
Oh man, it is a number. Like I am proud to say it, and I say it, but in a setting where you're surrounded by electricians, plumbers, doctors, lawyers, whatever, they're going to ask you what you do, and you're going to say, oh, I change car windshields, because you're embarrassed.
Yeah,
Not, I'm an auto glass technician.
yeah,
You're not even going to present yourself in that profession. You're like, I just change windshield, I just change glass in cars.
yeah.
And
You
it's like,
belittle yourself in the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like, no, 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 no. Listen, when that doctor needs, he's not changing his own windshield.
yeah,
When that plumber needs, he's not changing his own windshield. They're
right.
calling you because you are the specialist.
Hmm.
And I love that you are doing the work of, in your career, you're going to help people appreciate what they do and be proud of what they do, because you're right. There's a lot of
Yeah.
guys with knowledge out there that they hide, and in our forums they may come up, and I'm hoping on this show we are able to change the outlook of our industry, this show and others like ours. There's other ones like ours, like Shatterproof, and then the McCarthy one is
Mhm.
coming out, the Autoglass Marketer, all those guys that are coming out. I'm hoping what our show will show people is it's okay to be imperfect, but it's also okay to be proud of what we do.
Definitely.
So
Definitely. That's one of the things to do, is being able to learn from, like you said, it's okay to be imperfect, right? Like that's one of the things that I really had to overcome early on, was understanding how to learn from my mistakes. Like getting to the point where I knew, okay, hey, I made a mistake. What could I have done differently, right? Like we were talking about earlier, like that kind of sticks with you.
mhm.
That's part of how I was able to overcome that, is like, hey, I made a mistake here. What do I change going forward? How do I change as a technician to no longer make that mistake? So I can
Mhm.
tell you, there's a lot of guys out there too that'll make mistakes, and it's like, oh, this tool's a piece of crap, right? Oh, those Ford Escapes with that weird pinch weld in the bottom, it's their fault, right? Those engineers, nothing I could
Yeah,
have done differently, right?
yeah.
And we kind of cut ourselves out from our legs out from under us because we don't give ourselves an opportunity to grow, right? So we don't. I'm very, being self-critical is a bad thing, but in some cases it can also help, because you can kind of help to improve yourself little by little through it, and just kind of do a better job, or an easier job at that by the time you've done it a few times.
Do you think that they try to pass the blame off because they're embarrassed that they don't feel they have the knowledge to get better?
I do think that's part of it, yeah. Because
Yeah.
especially in our industry, right? I mean, it's
Hmm.
only recently that we've had things like Equalizer doing the, which you're a part of, right? Doing the whole training thing, right? Like
Oh
that's a
yeah,
whole new thing for our industry.
yeah,
Like
yep, yeah.
we've never had anything like that. So a lot of the guys who who kind of hide behind mistakes by blaming something else
Hmm.
might not know enough yet to be able to figure that out. I mean, look at what our industry has to offer. Like the closest thing we have to any kind of industry knowledge at this point, like real, is Bob's book, which is a
Yes.
phenomenal book. Anybody that hasn't
Oh
read it needs to read it.
yeah.
It's it's a very it's very textbooky, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
but I've read it a few times, and every time I read it, I get something else out of it, because it's just there's so much stuff there. I wish she would update it and do a new version of it personally,
Yeah.
but like more and more of that's needed because there's just not enough training in the industry to really kind of like help these guys learn. Because I think there's enough people that want to learn. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had to teach myself, and it
Yeah.
took a long time, and it took a lot of mistakes before I got there. And I'd really like to prevent that for most people.
Yeah, and you and I's day, we had to pull resources from everywhere we could. The people
Yeah.
that was around us training us and anything we could get our hands on. And honestly, the closest thing anybody comes to formal training is your urethane manufacturer training with a Dow or a Sika or an SRP or a Dynatrol.
Yep.
That is the closest thing you get to any kind of formal training, to be honest with you. And you're
You don't
looking
even
at
want to
the
know how long it was before I met any of those people.
yeah, you're looking at this guy like, dude, you're a salesman. You ain't never shot a bead
Mhm.
before. Show me what you. And a lot of them aren't. A lot of them actually are in this sales role because they've kind of transitioned out of the day-to-day installation part of it, or
Right.
like my Sika guy used to be a chemical engineer for Sika. Now he's my trainer. My
Mhm.
DuPont guy, Derek, he used to install windshields every day in and out in the Cincinnati area, and then he became DuPont. Rob Rice with Dynatrol, he was an installer in Seattle for many years before he went to Sika, and now he's with Dynatrol. And then Dave with SRP, who
Yep.
talked to me, he has all that paint background, and now he's coming into this industry. So you look at him, you're like, whatever, kind of thing. And the schools are becoming more and more available with Kaizen, with Autoglass
Mhm.
University, which I'm part of, then the Autoglass Academy, Lee Swindell's class at the Autoglass Tech Institute. Those are all becoming more readily available and becoming somewhat affordable. The one thing I would like to see is if they would get some sort of financing for people to help them get there financially. And what I mean by that is get a backing with some kind of bank or something that gives them like
Mhm.
almost like a tuition for a room and board that week, for the actual class, for any kind of materials they would need. Give more people the opportunity to do it so they're not taking directly out of their pocket that they can pay over time kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would like to see that tied to it more because I think that would open it up more to guys who want to do better, whose boss won't send them. You see
Yeah,
what I
that's what
mean?
I think we're trying to change with Speedy Glass. So I'm with Speedy Glass. With Novus is the Novus that I came from was a corporate location, right? So I was always kind of part of Speedy Glass, but now it's official. Like I'm officially with Speedy Glass,
Hmm.
and that's one of the things that we're changing. So we actually just this last couple of years we've been playing with it and trying to perfect it. But we actually have started the very first state sanctioned apprenticeship program for auto glass technicians.
What?
So yeah, so it's a legitimate, it's an apprenticeship program, just as legitimate as any of the other big trades. And we're doing it exclusively with Speedy, and we basically hire guys on. We teach them everything. It's a 2,000 hour program, is what we have in Washington State. We're building it out everywhere else where we got it
Hmm.
going. It's 2,000 hours. It's about 14 months by the time you're out of the program, and it's got some restrictions on it that prevent you from getting the kind of training you would have gotten back in the day. So, like one of the restrictions is the apprentice can never be left on their own entirely. So you're always working with someone, whether you're working on your own car and they're working on their own car, you always have someone with experience with you,
Hmm.
training you through it. And then there's all kinds of classroom stuff that we're building into it as well. So you're getting that like knowledge base that takes a lot of guys like 5, 6 years to build up. So we can give guys the training that they need, the hands-on experience that they need to get comfortable, and the knowledge that they need to where by the time they get in front of a customer, they don't feel dumb. Because that was my biggest
Oh,
problem.
yeah,
When I
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the first couple mobiles, right? Kind of BS your way through it when the customer's asking questions. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to change all of that. But yeah, it's like an official, legitimate apprenticeship program. The whole everything's pretty much the same, providing all the tools, which is I mean, I helped put together the toolkit. So it's basically what you saw at Auto Glass Week for me, but
Hmm.
with a couple of fun things in there. But it's completely set up, teaching guys the newer techniques as well as some of the older techniques that are still relevant, right?
Hmm.
Teaching them how to use extractors to then destroy stuff, but also saying, hey, listen, this is the preferred method and it's going to be the bat. Like
Hmm.
that's what we're teaching guys is like, hey, this is the best wire tool on the market. You need to get good at this because this is what the future of auto glass is going to be. It's not going to be
Hmm.
that. You need
Yeah.
to learn this first. And we actually just graduated our first apprentice. His name is Gabe. He's from Kennewick.
Hmm.
Fantastic kid. This guy is awesome. I trained him for about half of his time with us, And he is as good, if not better, than a lot of technicians I've seen with 5+ years of experience.
That's
And he's only been there
awesome.
for a year and a half.
Dude, I really, really, really love the fact that you guys are doing this because
Mhm.
I think that this is a good model for others who
Yep.
are looking to do a training program that could start. I really do. I think that, yes, hats off to you guys. That's amazing. I loved it. I love it. I love it. That's great. Heck yeah.
Hey,
So we,
hey, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here like a lame duck, but I like that too. Mac, what can I ask? What are you guys doing to like, I guess, entice or dangle the carrot? Like, oh, look what we got for you, or how are you? Because obviously, right? Like nobody's like, hey, I'm going to go be an auto glass guy. Right here we are, 25, 20 years later, and we love the industry. So what
Right.
are you guys doing to entice the younger? Because we are a service industry, right? We do provide a service, and I'm like wanting to interject and say, man, I agree, and this and that. But what are you guys doing to entice those young people to that opportunity?
Just trying to be visible. So we've got recruiters that work with us, and what we do is we do a lot of job fairs and that kind of stuff. And in all reality, what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the industry as a whole at the same time, right? So like you're saying, we're trying to entice this younger generation into this industry. And the nice thing is there's already a lot of people out there like myself who like the automotive industry, but just don't know where they fit into it. And part of what we can do is we can offer, when we're getting the way we're getting people in the door really is we're offering a really good wage to start out with, but that wage goes up every so many hours, and it increases to at a rate where I'm like, this is fantastic, because you're almost like, the way that we've structured it, like I can't give you guys exact numbers because it changes state to state and all that kind of stuff, but the way that we structured it is essentially every time you get a bump, you're outpacing what you're actually producing, right? So you're getting paid a little bit more than what you're really worth, but it's in preparation to build you up further and further and further. And by the time you graduate out and you become an official journeyman, like it's an actual journeyman program, right? You get a wage that's actually livable and better than livable in most cases. I mean, these guys are coming out of this making more money above the minimum age in each state than I would have ever dreamed of when I started doing this. I don't know about you guys. When I started doing this, I was making $12 an hour.
7.
And that was 50 cents above minimum wage at the time.
Yeah. I started at 2003 and I started at $7 an hour. So
there you go.
yeah.
I wasn't much before you, James, but I don't even remember. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that. I think that having that goal of knowing what they're working towards is a good enticement, because sometimes you get a job and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to get a raise in a week or a month, or I'm going to bust my ass, and in a year I don't get anything. Like, I don't know what do I have to look for? And I think that that's a problem probably everywhere. Like, what do I have to look for? Why I can come, and make that much, but that's cool. But in a year, am I going to be making the same amount of money, doing twice as much work, and have twice as much knowledge? That's a good platform and a good progression for them to work towards. It's like having something to work towards goes a long way.
Well, and one of the things we're changing too, like as an industry, we're trying to change as our company, right, is pushing more quality installations versus quick installations, right? So like most of the shops around here you're going to work for, it's like, how many can you do in a day? That's all they care about. How much can you produce, right?
Units.
We actually set an average for our technicians at 6 a day.
Oh, that's perfect. That's a good number.
That's like the, hey, if you can do 6 a day, you're a great technician. If you can do 8 a day, you're a rock star. We don't want you to do any more than that, though.
Yeah.
Like, we literally are saying, like, hey, listen, we want to give you guys the time to be able to do good quality installations where you don't feel rushed. You don't feel like you have to skip a step. You can actually take your time to do it right and not get that kind of pressure build up, right? And so we're kind of building that out throughout the entire company, but the whole company is in a rebuilding phase. And that's what I'm a part of. Like, we're going through and like changing so many things to make it more technician friendly, more shop friendly, and in turn more customer friendly.
Yeah. I like that because they get into the habit of using their car covers, using their, best practices techniques. And it's not like, oh, you do that on every car. Well, yeah, because that's the way I was trained. You see what I mean?
My apprentice out here, dude, he sets a timer and shakes it for a full minute every single time.
Hey,
he gets that power bottom and shakes it for a full minute. I even when I'm not looking, I see him doing it. And then puts the primer on, sets his timer for how long it needs to set to cure, all that fun
Awesome.
stuff. He's doing
Well,
everything, and it's what I want to see.
And I think what gets overlooked there is if you build efficiency into your routine, you don't have to have your routine take away from your efficiency, and you can actually
Right.
get more work done because you're efficient in the fact that you have we all have a routine that we follow, and if efficiency is built in there, then you don't have to change what you're doing already to try to become efficient. And now if
Yeah.
you're not efficient, you can build those in, but you kind of got to start from the ground floor, and you kind of got to take the time. And then once you take the time to learn the efficiency and learn, then it becomes second nature, then it becomes quicker, becomes
Yep.
more efficient, like we're talking about. And this 2 hour windshield now turned into 45 minutes with doing everything right, shaking
Right.
primers, waiting your flash time so you don't have
Yep.
those issues. You don't have the comebacks or the sneaky little things because it's like, did I not? Because it's in there. It's
Yep.
in your routine. So
Yeah.
yeah, hats off to you and your company for doing that, because you're releasing the next generation to teach the following generation. And if they learn how to do it this way, it's
Mhm.
going to be taboo to do it the way we were trained.
Right. And that, that's kind of what we're trying to do. Like we're trying to start from ground, but we're planning, 10 years into the future at this point, right? Like we want to train up not only new technicians, but master technicians, proper trainers, like people that can go out in the industry and start to develop new techniques on top of all that, right? Because
Mhm.
like for me, when you see how much the auto glass industry has changed just in the last 10 years, right?
Mhm. Oh
Heck,
yeah.
the last 5 years, just in the last couple of years. I mean, for crying out loud, it's changed so much, right?
Mhm.
And I think that one of the problems I see in the industry as a whole is that we have too many people that are stuck in the way that they learned how to do it, and they don't know how to learn anything new. And they
Amen.
get to this point where it's like, well, I've always done it like this. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, but that was 20 years ago. That was
And I
10
did,
years ago.
and I don't have comebacks. I always do it
Yeah,
like this, and I don't have comebacks. And it's like,
that's because they're going somewhere else.
exactly. It's because once they're like, I ain't having that guy touch my car again. See the way he left it?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
you're 100% correct. Is like, yeah, you have that guy with 20 years experience, but only 1 year of knowledge.
yeah,
And that's a hard fight to overcome. And I'm
yep.
glad that you're on the front lines with me doing this, because with our show, me, Damon, Bradley, we all share the same outlook of you never quit learning, and we want to teach, and we want to instruct, and we want to help others be better that want to help themselves. And I'm glad that you're on the front lines with us and fighting, because there could be no better person. Because if you want to, hey, everybody, do yourself a favor. I don't know if there's any videos out there or not, but if you want to see a job done the most precise, perfect, textbook way you can see it, watch Mackenzie install a piece of glass. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. You can get it from Alfredo, you can get it from wherever, but I'm telling you right now, if you watch Mackenzie install a piece of glass, your jaw will be on the floor because it looks so fucking effortless and every step is checked.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that though, because when I actually lost one of our accounts by doing it like that
Oh no. Oh no.
years
Don't lose
ago.
an account.
Yeah, so it's a funny story. So we did we used to do the FedEx trucks over in our area. This was, oh gosh, like 10 years ago or something like that, and we did them for a long time. Well, those are just square pieces of glass, right? They're just a bone-in gasket, right? They're
Yep.
easy.
Yeah.
I got so efficient at doing those that I can start to finish 10 minutes. I'm done, and that's with cleaning everything up and
Mhm.
washing everything down and all that kind of stuff. So we go down to go down to their account, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I need you to do those 5, right?" Well, I come back like 30 minutes later, and I'm done. And there's like, "There's no way you're done." He goes out there and looks at it, and he just looks straight at me. He's like, "If that's all it takes, I'm gonna have my guys do it from now on because you guys are too expensive." And I was like, "Oh crap!"
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like
Oh
they basically
no.
fired me because I made it look too
Because
easy.
you were too good and made it look too easy. Oh
Yeah,
That's
no.
kind of like you're kind of like
yeah. Yeah, it's like like so, like I use that as an example all the time too. Like with these F-150s, right? With the laminated door glass, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, just do this," and it comes out real quick. I'm like, "Listen, don't do that in front of a customer.
No.
Like, take the
No.
door panel off at least.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like why
he's
are
gonna look
you
at your bill and question why he's paying you."
yeah, why am I charging you so much? It took you less than 5 minutes, and why am I charging? Why are you charging me so much? Why is there
Yeah,
4 hours of
exactly.
labor on here, 2.5 hours of labor, and it took you 5 minutes? Like, I'm overpaying. Absolutely. Hi, Daddy.
Yeah,
If you need to go and figure out a way to make it take you just a little bit longer, like you really detail the car or something, yeah, Yeah,
So
a lot of people they'll put all those out there, not realizing that it is a pride thing and it's cool, but it's also there are others watching us that we don't know are
mhm,
watching us, insurance companies,
yep.
the customers, and if they start questioning, like, well, that's what too easy for you, and it's like, well, it took me a long time to get this easy, to make it look this easy. So just kind of you're paying me for my knowledge, not what you know what I mean, not the time I'm here, kind of thing,
Yeah, exactly. And you can say that to a customer all day long.
and they
They're
don't
never
care.
gonna buy it.
Well,
They
yeah,
don't care,
because
right?
they're like, you're like, this is my money. I made
Yeah,
this. I'm giving it to you, and I want you to
yeah,
make it look a little bit fucking harder. Come on, dude. Seriously? Are you shitting me right now? It only took you that long? Nah, dude.
yeah.
Like, I remember one dude I was doing a Chevy Express uh van windshield for, and he was a racer, so I knew him a little bit, motocross racer. And he went inside and he came back out, and I was washing all the windows. And he's like, "Are you done?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Come with the motherfucking quickness." I was like, "I'm telling you, boy, what's this? Your boy don't mess around. He gets going." He's like, "So this $200 is now $100, bitch." I was like, "Oh, are you serious?" I said, "I can't
Yep.
tell my boss that. You're paying my boss. You ain't paying me. I'm just a technician." He, he's like, we're gonna pay this bill, but he's like, that's a little shady. It's like, no, dude, you're paying me because I am this good, you pay me the way I look, not because of, what I
Right.
mean?
That's where all the extra stuff comes into play when you're doing this
Yes.
kind of stuff. That's
Yeah,
where,
sweeping the
you know,
floors, washing the
yeah,
windows,
that's
customer
like for
service.
me, I want to leave it better than when I showed up. Like every car,
Absolutely.
I don't care if it's an OEM or not. I want it to look better than when I left. I
Yep.
want it to be cleaner than when I left. I want
Hmm.
their driveway to be cleaner than when I left. So that
Yeah.
way there's no evidence I was ever there.
Yeah. Yep.
Back
Yep.
back back in the day in California, we were really big on customer service. We do like trainings and stuff for customer service. Um, I I did it when I had my business recently, but when we were done with every car, we vacuumed it. We had a little Milwaukee vacuum. We vacuumed it,
Mhm.
wiped it all down, cleaned all the windows in the car, and
Yep.
we topped off their wiper fluid.
Yep.
So we
Yeah.
get people be like, "What are you doing? Tapping their wiper fluid off?" Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I buy this little bottle from a buddy of mine. It's a concentrate. I put like one drop into a gallon of water and it lasts me forever. It's like water doesn't cost me anything. So, it's those little things you do that people don't see and realize that, hey, they filled up my wiper fluid. Oh, that's cool.
Well,
Mm.
that's one of the things I always tell the new guys too. It's like, it takes you 3 seconds to clean something, right? Like when you get that windshield out, wipe down the A pillars
Mhm.
because there's a handprint on there that's not yours. That is yours as soon as you're done with this job.
It is yours. It is yours.
You own it.
Exactly. Exactly. And it only takes that one Karen to
That
leave a bad
one
taste.
care.
Yeah. And it always happens, right? Like you pull it out. So it's usually like an Audi or something like that, or Porsche SUV. You get it all done, you pull it out, you think you're all good to go, and then they pull right back up to your door. Now it takes you 15 minutes to clean it up because now you got to pull it back in.
Uh-huh.
You got to clean up the little spot that would have taken you 3
30
seconds
seconds.
before.
Yep,
Yeah.
and
absolutely,
the
100%.
and and the problem with that is then they think their brain goes to, oh, well, if you didn't clean that, you probably didn't do this right, or you didn't do that
Right. They
right.
start to
So then
question
right in.
everything about your install.
Yep.
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 Yep, they
Yep.
question everything. Yep. If you didn't take that extra time, then what else didn't
Mhm.
you do right, or what?
Yep.
All
That was
right.
always a struggle that I had going through this because I looked younger than I am. So like I'm 35, but when I started doing this, I was 22 and I
Hmm.
looked 16.
Yeah.
So imagine me. No, if I shave, I look way younger than I am. So imagine, clean shaven me, thick head of hair at the time, right? I show up to do some 70-year-old guy's car,
Yeah.
and he's looking at me like I'm like fresh off the bus, and he's like, "This guy can't do anything," right? So every little thing that I left behind that left a question turned into a much bigger question. Now they're looking at the molding. Now looking
Yeah.
at this. Now they're going to argue with you about every little thing. It's like, no, no, no. Every little thing matters.
Yep.
Everything you can do to set yourself up for success is what you need to do because otherwise you're going to have to work twice as hard to get it better.
Yeah, set yourself up for success. I like that. I like that statement. Well, we're coming up. I think we've been talking for about an hour now. Is that right? Like we're at 7:10. I
Yeah, I
don't
think
remember.
so. It's about 15 after we started, I think. Yeah.
Okay. We try to keep these shows to an hour, Mac, and we definitely would love to have you back on because I don't think I've even touched on anything that I wanted to touch on. Like, you're such a great father, family man. You juggle all this stuff. I think it would be a beautiful story to hear how you guys, your whole family's involved in Autoglass. You and Jen, and you have your kids, and you guys, your dad was, and all this stuff. And I think that would be very beneficial for our listeners to hear because you learn a little bit peek behind the curtain of someone who is, you know, an icon in our industry because you've become that through your Auto Glass Week wins. I don't think anybody, if you don't know who Mackenzie Curbow is, he in 19, him and I showed up in Indianapolis. It was both of our first times at Auto Glass Week. I missed the finals by 2 points. This dude went and won it on his first try. He comes back in 20/21, and I take third. He takes first again. We go to San Antonio, and the GOAT that we consider of our industry, Alfredo, came out, and Alfredo got you by what, 2 points, a point?
I think it's 3 points. I
Yeah.
didn't date my primer bottle.
Yeah, he didn't date his primer bottle. That's how picky they are with this stuff, guys.
Yep.
So then that was when he moved into his role as a corporate person for Speedy / Novus.
Mhm.
And then Alfredo also has went into doing his own venture, and that's when I was given the opportunity to step up because in San Antonio I missed the final by a point. You know,
Mhm.
me and Aaron Bradford tied, and then so I missed the final four by a point, and then come into 23 and ended up getting lucky and beating everybody out. You know what I mean? So I felt good
This
about
is just
that.
luck, buddy. This is just luck.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. But like Mackenzie, the way he influenced me was in 19, he didn't know me from anybody. And just like a lot of people in this industry, he was like, we competed together and you give me pointers. You were literally, I forgot the mirror in the back seat, which was kind of funny. Everybody's busting my balls about in 19. But here you were giving me pointers and you went to the finals and I didn't. And when we were in the finals together in Orlando, you were also giving me pointers before we fucking started, before we walked onto the floor. We were standing there with our pack outs and, our toolboxes and stuff. And you were just like, yeah, man, make sure you check this, make sure you do this. And, you saw that I was a bundle of nerves and you're trying to, as a person, you just were like, hey, man, this is, so then in San Antonio, we talked a good bit. And then this year, seeing you on the sidelines when I came around the car in the finals, it added a little bit of pressure, but it also the same way when I saw Drift Chris on the sidelines, it kind of relaxed me because even though you two are very important to me when it comes to installing glass, I knew I wanted to impress you guys, especially you, because I knew you were coming out and looking at my fucking car. I knew it. I knew it. As soon as I was done, I was like, man, if this passes the Mac test, if this passes the big Mac test, then I think I've got this thing. And it seemed to, like, you went over and you looked it all over and everything. And when you went over my car and you were like, dude, your deck height's good. You were good. You're fluent. Everything was good. Everything looks good. It's all tidy. That made me feel somewhat confident, because I was like, okay, it passed Mac's test. So if you guys don't know, he's one of the greatest installers in my opinion to ever do this job.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm one of those guys that's weird to, I don't say things I don't mean, and I don't mean things I don't say. So if I don't voice it, then I don't mean it. And that's kind of the way that I kind of have structured my life. And one of those things that I'm very like, I like about myself. Because if I'm proud of somebody, I'm telling them. If I like somebody, I'm telling them. It's like, listen here, man, like what you're doing with Speedy, I'm very proud of that. Super proud of that. I'm super proud of all your accomplishments in glass. I'm super proud just to call you friend, which is cool. Like how many people has that? Hey man, I was called Mac today. What's up? Like, like what up, dude? Like, hey man, I got this or this. So, well, let's. Do you have anything? We're gonna bring you back on. I really want to have you back on. But is there anything you want our listeners to know before we end this?
Honestly, no, I just want to end on the last note you just talked about. Honestly, I want more of the industry to do more of just that. I want us to be more open with one another because the way our industry is going to grow is by sharing, not by holding things secret. Because that's how our industry grows. That's how we get better. That's how we do better. Because I hope one day we go to Auto Glass Week and we're the big dogs on campus and not the tent guys.
I know, right? Isn't that some crazy shit? Like,
Yeah, I
like
want to walk
literally.
in and see like the auto glass just really shine, and the tint guys have to look over and be like, "Oh man, I wish it was that."
I wish I was doing that.
Yeah,
I wish I was a rock
right.
star like that guy, like
Yeah.
that dude right there. So, absolutely, which I'm looking forward to seeing you at Auto Glass Week this year. Damon, do you have anything for Mac before we leave?
No, I'm good, man. I look forward to meeting you face to face this year. I'm super excited about Auto Glass Week and my adventure since meeting James and Bradley has been great, and the people I've met, and I can't wait to put some face to faces with some names and do our thing.
It'll be a blast. I'll be helping judge for rock chip repairs this year.
Yeah, and I'm judging
Nice.
for the AGTO, the Autoglass Tech Olympics. So I'm judging for that. And then there's going to be some demonstrations and things like that that we're also going to be part of. That's going to be kind of cool. So with
I told
that,
SRP they should do the demo, by the way,
yeah.
with their new prep stuff. I told them they should get 3 windshields out and they should call out Dow and Sika, and they should contaminate the crap out of them like I did SRP when they were demoing their stuff.
Oh
and
my
be
goodness,
all right,
like an old school throwdown. Like
Competition.
like a throwdown and see, and they can time it and see who's
yeah. See whose glass came out. That would be awesome if they could organize something like that. I don't know, but that'd be
I
cool.
don't think anybody would do it though.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I've been the Ghost Set Killer, James, with Put 'em on the Glass podcast. Remember, Auto Glass University, we've got a class coming up in June. We got a class coming up in April. I think there's I don't know if there's any seats left for April, but you could check. I know there's some seats left for June, but not a bunch. And then we got to figure out what's going on for the rest of the year. Jump into Lise Wendell's class, jump into the Equalizer Academy, go down to Kaizen Solutions, jump in them, get a hold of everybody. And if you need anything, just hit us up on direct messaging. So with that, peace.